Have you ever had a moment, maybe late at night, where reality didn't feel real? The walls feel thinner, the silence too loud. You look at your hands, your room, the world, and a quiet question creeps in. What is this? We live in a world of concrete and steel, of rules and logic, of cause and effect. But peel back the surface and everything unravels. Time is a mystery we pretend to understand. Consciousness is a phenomenon we can't explain. And existence itself? An accident. A glitch. Or worse, an illusion. Science says you're a biological machine. Religion says you're a soul on a path. Society says you're a citizen, a consumer, a cog in something greater. But what if none of it is true? What if everything you believe, your memories, your senses, even your sense of self, is part of an elegant hallucination? What if the most trusted parts of your life are the most deceptive? Some ideas are called crazy, not because they're wrong, but because they're dangerous, because they burn the script, because they force you to ask questions that have no answers. These are the theories philosophers whisper about, the ones that break the boundaries of thought itself, ideas that suggest you're not who you think you are, that the world isn't what you think it is, that meaning, morality, and truth may be optional. But here's the strange part. Some of these theories, despite their madness, are starting to sound more like prophecy than paranoia. In the next 24 minutes, we'll walk through the darkest corridors of the human mind, through ideas that challenge not only the world around you, but the one inside you. We're not here to prove or disprove. We're here to peel back the curtain, because once you see the cracks in reality, you can't unsee them. And maybe that's the first step toward something real, or maybe it's just the beginning of the dream. What if everything you know is a code? Not just the rules of nature or physics, but you, your thoughts, your memories, your life, are lines of programming running inside a vast, unknowable system. This is the terrifying premise of the simulation theory. Nick Bostrom, a philosopher, put it plainly. Either civilizations like ours never reach a stage where they can create realistic simulations of consciousness, or we are almost certainly living in one. Think about that. There might be trillions of simulated realities out there, digital worlds crafted by hyper-advanced civilizations, where beings like you and me play out lives indistinguishable from real ones. It sounds like science fiction, but it traces back centuries. Descartes, the 17th century thinker, wondered if a demon might be deceiving him, feeding false perceptions. Plato told a story of prisoners chained in a cave, mistaking shadows for the whole world. Now, in the 21st century, we replace shadows with pixels and demons with code. If this is true, what does it mean? Are we just lines of code running on a cosmic hard drive? If so, who wrote the program? Are we players, puppets, or experiments? And what happens when the simulation crashes? Psychology tells us humans hate uncertainty. The idea that everything might be a simulation threatens our need for control and meaning. It evokes a kind of existential vertigo, a nausea that stems from realizing our choices may be scripted, or worse, meaningless. Yet some embrace it as liberation. If life is a game, perhaps rules can be broken. Perhaps morality is flexible. Perhaps the fears that haunt us are nothing more than bugs in the system. Others fear it means despair. If pain and joy alike are just data, is anything truly real? The implications stretch further. If we are simulated, could our suffering be purposeful? A test? A form of entertainment for unknown observers? Or simply an emergent glitch in a universe too complex to debug? In that sense, the simulation theory doesn't just challenge reality, it challenges identity itself. You start asking, who am I beneath this code? What does it mean to be real? And the scariest part? The simulation may be so flawless, so complete, that we have no way to prove or disprove it, like a dream you can't wake from. So maybe the only real question is this. If you are a character in a game, how will you choose to play? Imagine a world where you are the only true mind. Everyone else, friends, strangers, even family, are just shadows, echoes, projections of your consciousness. Nothing outside your own mind can be proven to exist. This is the terrifying heart of Solipsism. At its core, Solipsism says, I alone am sure to exist. Everything else could be a fabrication, a dream, a story my mind tells itself. Descartes' I think, therefore I am, was meant to anchor knowledge. But what if that I is all there is? What if other minds are illusions, actors playing parts in your mental theater? Philosophers call this the egocentric predicament, the impossible barrier between your mind and the outside world. You can never step beyond your own perceptions to truly confirm anything. Think of it like being trapped in a hall of mirrors where every reflection pretends to be another person. This theory isn't just academic. Psychologically, it taps into a primal loneliness, the existential fear that no one truly knows you, that everyone else is unreachable, unknowable. Solipsism edges close to madness, but it also reveals something deeply human. From infancy, we struggle to separate self from other. Babies cry until they learn that others have minds too. We learn empathy, language, culture through this awareness of other minds. But what if that's an illusion? In the digital age, solipsism takes on new faces. Online avatars, filtered identities, virtual realities, each can feel more like a mask than a real person. When every connection is mediated by a screen, solipsism slips from philosophy into lived experience. The question remains, how do you prove someone else's consciousness? How do you escape the prison of your own mind? The answer is slippery. No proof is absolute, yet most of us live as if others are real, because solipsism, if true, would mean unbearable isolation. But maybe it's not about proof. Maybe it's about trust. Trusting the world beyond your mind, even if you can't fully grasp it, because to live entirely inside solipsism is to live alone in a void. And maybe the most radical act is to step outside that void, to choose to believe in others, despite the doubt. What if every moment you live, you have already lived before, not just once but infinitely many times? This is Nietzsche's haunting idea of eternal return. Imagine waking up tomorrow, only to realize it's the exact same day you lived yesterday. Every conversation, every choice, every pain and joy repeating forever. Time isn't a straight line but a circle, spinning endlessly. The concept isn't new. Ancient cultures, the Greeks, Hindus, Buddhists, have long seen time as cyclical, a great cosmic rhythm, birth, death, rebirth, beginning and end merging. Nietzsche took this idea and turned it into a moral challenge. If you had to live your life over again exactly the same, would you embrace it? Would you say yes to your suffering, your mistakes, your triumphs? Or would you scream in horror? Eternal return forces us to face our lives with brutal honesty. No do-overs, no second chances, just repetition without mercy. Psychology echoes this in patterns of trauma and behavior. How often do we find ourselves trapped in loops, relationships, addictions, fears that replay like a broken record? How many choices do we unconsciously repeat? Eternal return asks, are you living authentically or trapped in cycles? It demands responsibility, but also liberation. Because if your life repeats forever, every moment becomes infinitely important. Your smallest act reverberates through eternity. This idea cuts deeper than any philosophy. It strips away illusions of time and invites you to live deliberately, fully, right now. Even if the universe is not truly cyclical, the thought experiment reveals something terrifying and beautiful. That life's meaning is not found in endings, but in how we bear the burden of repetition. In a world that might loop endlessly, how will you live? Will you accept the eternal return as a curse or a call to affirm life in all its chaos? What if the very act of being born was a mistake? Not just unfortunate, but a fundamental harm. This is the shocking claim of anti-natalism. Philosopher David Benatar argues that coming into existence causes more suffering than happiness, so much, so that non-existence is preferable. His argument hinges on an unsettling asymmetry. The pain of being alive is real and undeniable. The absence of pleasure when not existing is no loss because there's no one to miss it. In other words, while being born brings inevitable suffering, never being born means you don't miss out on anything. The question then becomes, why bring someone into a world where pain is guaranteed? This challenges the deepest taboos: procreation, the continuation of life. Anti-Natalism traces back to Schopenhauer's bleak philosophy and echoes Buddhist teachings about suffering. But it's more than abstract thought. In an era of climate collapse, political chaos, and mass extinction, the question feels urgent. Are we complicit in passing on pain, trauma, and a broken world? Psychologically, it forces us to confront denial, our cultural habit of pretending life is worth it at any cost. Most people cling to hope, faith, or meaning to justify existence. Anti-Natalism strips that away, exposing raw, uncomfortable truths. It asks, is it ethical to create life without consent? Can we justify suffering for the possibility of joy? For some, this is liberation, a call to rethink responsibility and compassion. For others, despair. But whether you agree or not, anti-natalism shakes the foundation of everything we take for granted. It demands a radical re-examination of life itself. What if consciousness isn't just a trick of the brain, but a fundamental feature of the universe? What if every particle, every atom, has a spark of awareness? This is the radical idea behind panpsychism. It suggests that consciousness doesn't emerge only from complex brains but is woven into the very fabric of reality. Philosophers like Galen Strawson and Philip Goff argue that the mystery of how subjective experience arises from matter can be solved if we accept that all matter is, in some way, conscious. This challenges the dominant materialist view that consciousness is an accidental byproduct. Instead, panpsychism flips the script. Consciousness is primary, matter is secondary. It's an idea that echoes ancient animism, the belief that rivers, rocks, and trees have spirits. It also resonates with Eastern philosophies like Vedanta, which see the universe as a living, aware whole. Psychologically, humans instinctively anthropomorphize objects, talking to plants, naming cars, sensing moods in rooms. This impulse may hint at an innate intuition toward panpsychism. If the universe is conscious, what does that mean for us? Are we isolated minds or expressions of a larger cosmic awareness? Is consciousness singular or multiple, individual or collective? Panpsychism blurs these lines. It suggests the universe might not only be alive, but aware of you, a living mind, and you, a part of its thought. This perspective is both humbling and profound. It offers a new lens on identity, connection, and reality itself. And it challenges us to rethink what it means to be conscious. What if the world you see isn't real? Not in the traditional sense, not just an illusion but a copy without an original. This is the chilling premise of hyperreality. Jean Baudrillard, a French philosopher, argued that in our modern world, simulations don't just imitate reality, they replace it. We live in a world where signs and symbols no longer point to anything real, where the representation becomes reality. Think of a theme park, where fake castles feel more magical than real ones, or social media, where curated lives are more vivid than actual experience. Baudrillard described 4 stages, from faithful images reflecting reality, to masks that distort, to simulacra, copies without originals, and finally hyperreality, where the copy is all there is. We don't just watch the news. We watch a spectacle designed to shape what we believe. We don't just consume products, we consume images, brands, lifestyles packaged and sold as authentic. This creates a world where truth and fiction blur, where what's real becomes a negotiable concept. Psychologically, this feeds a sense of disconnection and disorientation. Platforms like TikTok and Instagram amplify filtered, idealized realities. Algorithms trap us in echo chambers, feeding versions of the world tailored to manipulate our fears and desires. Politics becomes theater, a performance crafted for power rather than truth. Noam Chomsky's propaganda model shows how media manufactures consent, controlling public opinion through carefully constructed narratives. Hyperreality is not just a philosophical concept, it's a tool of control. When the simulation is more convincing than reality, resistance becomes almost impossible. We begin to question, are we citizens of a genuine society or inhabitants of a constructed illusion? And if reality itself is manufactured, what does freedom mean? In this age of hyperreality, the ultimate rebellion might be simply to see clearly, to recognize the simulation, to refuse to be a passive player in a world where nothing is as it seems. Imagine your entire world, your memories, your sensations, your sense of self, is just electrical signals fed directly into your brain. You're not in your body, or anywhere at all. You're floating in a vat, hooked up to a machine, while scientists watch and manipulate your experience. This is the brain in a vat hypothesis, a modern twist on Descartes' evil demon and the simulation theory. Philosophers use it to question the nature of reality and knowledge. If your perceptions are controlled by someone else, how can you know what's real? How can you trust your senses if they can be fooled completely? It's a nightmare of epistemology, the study of what we can truly know, but it's more than philosophy. Psychologically, it taps into a primal fear, the loss of autonomy, the erasure of identity. If your entire experience is manufactured, who are you really? Are you a real person or a captive in someone else's experiment? Science fiction has explored this deeply, from The Matrix to countless dystopian stories. And with advances in virtual reality and brain-computer interfaces, the boundary between real and simulated experience blurs. The brain in a vat challenges us to confront the limits of our knowledge and the fragility of our existence. It forces a radical doubt. Maybe the world we trust is just a shadow on a wall, yet we live, love, suffer, and hope within this uncertainty. Maybe that is the point, to find meaning, even when the foundation of reality is unknown. To act, even if the script is written by another. We've wandered through some of the most unsettling, mind-bending ideas ever conceived. From the possibility that you are a character trapped inside a cosmic simulation, to the lonely nightmare of solipsism, where you may be the only conscious mind in existence. From Nietzsche's eternal return demanding you embrace life's infinite repetition, to the radical challenge of anti-natalism questioning the very ethics of birth itself. From Panpsychism's vision of a conscious universe, to Baudrillard's hyperreal worlds that erase the line between truth and illusion. From the terrifying thought that your brain could be floating lifeless in a vat, fed fabricated experiences by unseen hands, to the dizzying idea that maybe none of this can ever be known for certain. What does it all mean? At first glance, these theories may feel like invitations to despair, proof that life is meaningless, reality is a lie, and we are powerless shadows in a dream. But there is another way to see them. Each theory, strange and unsettling as it is, points us toward the same profound truth. Certainty is an illusion. We crave certainty because it gives us comfort, a foothold in an overwhelming world. But the universe, our existence, is fundamentally ambiguous, mysterious, and paradoxical. In this uncertainty lies freedom. You are not bound by a single narrative or a fixed identity. You are an explorer on a vast, unknowable sea. To live is to wrestle with this uncertainty, to stare into the abyss without flinching. Nietzsche called this the will to power, not domination over others, but the courage to create your own meaning when none is given, to say yes to life despite its chaos and pain, to find joy in the struggle itself. The simulation may be real or it may not. You may be alone or deeply connected to a living universe. You may be trapped in repetition or forging a new path. The point is not to find the right answer. It's to face these questions bravely, to recognize the cracks in the reality we take for granted, to see through illusions without losing your soul. Because in doing so, you reclaim something essential, your power to choose. You become the author of your own story, even when the pages are blank, even when the ending is unwritten. And maybe, just maybe, that is what makes life truly profound. Not certainty, not answers, but the courage to live, boldly, authentically, awake. In a world stranger than fiction, that is the greatest truth we can hold. Thank you for joining this journey through the wildest philosophical frontiers. The greatest adventure is not out there, it's inside you.